Well, the U.S. Congress has been informed of a waiver signed last week, which allows banks to transfer $6 billion in frozen funds to Iran, bypassing U.S. sanctions. U.S. officials say the first batch of the funds have already been transferred, adding that the process will take some time to complete. The move is a step forward for a prisoner swap deal between Washington and Tehran. Under the deal, 5 prisoners each will be exchanged among the nations. According to the U.S. State Department, the money will not reach Iran, but will be moved from banks in South Korea to a bank account in Qatar. The Iranian government will be able to access the Qatari account for utilizing the funds to buy food and other goods. The United States will also have an oversight as to how and when these funds are used. The development is significant as it suggests the scope for mending U.S.-Iran relations perhaps still exists, and that both the nations are working towards that goal. Iran and the U.S. and their ties took a serious hit after Washington backed off on a 2015 multilateral nuclear deal with Iran in 2018. The Trump administration also reimposed hard-hitting sanctions on Tehran. The Biden government, along with France, China, Russia, the UK, and Germany, were renegotiating the terms with Iran for going back to the nuclear pact, but the process has so far failed to yield any breakthrough. On that note, the UN nuclear watchdog of IAEA said that Iran is yet to provide explanation for uranium traces found at previously undeclared nuclear research sites. Back in the U.S., the decision by the Biden administration to waive the sanctions for a prisoner swap drew criticism from Republicans, including former President Donald Trump himself. Republicans want American prisoners to be released immediately and unconditionally. They have also expressed deep concern that the money for the prisoners deal creates a direct incentive for America's adversaries to conduct future hostage-taking. Moreover, the Republicans are also skeptical of Iran using the sum to fund terrorism, causing trouble in the U.S. and the Gulf region. All right, for more on this, we are being joined by Edward P. Joseph, Senior Fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies and Foreign Policy Analyst. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Edward, great to see you again. So the deal was inked about a week ago, announced on 9/11 to Congress, a 5-for-5 trade and $6 billion. But there are a lot of questions which remain. For example, who are they? How is the U.S. going to monitor this money? And why was this money even necessary?
Well, unfortunately, the money was necessary because Iran did take these American citizens hostage. These Iranian Americans, 5 Iranian Americans, not truly guilty of anything of espionage or any other charges that the Iranian government has accused them of. And the Biden administration has made it a priority to bring American citizens back, trying to, as best it can, avoid the trap, the hostage trap of negotiating and paying a, quote, ransom in order to get your citizens back, which, of course, only incentivizes governments like Iran's to take other Americans hostage. And we saw this in Russia, of course, with the high-profile case of Brittany Griner, the basketball player who was traded for a Russian who had been convicted, legitimately convicted of crimes. And Russia won that release by seizing Brittany Griner. And, of course, there are other Americans still being held in Russia. Now, the wider question here with Iran is whether this agreement will improve relations between Iran and the United States enough to get actual cooperation on the wider question of the Iran nuclear deal and Iran's behavior in the Middle East. Please.
IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi said that he has noticed a decrease in interest from IAEA member states. He didn't name them, but he said it's a decrease in interest in Iran's nuclear escalation. He's wondering why that is, considering the fact that the threat is as important today as it was in the past. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Rossi is doing his job. That's his job. He is the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, based in Vienna. Vienna is the site of where there were these talks begun under the Biden administration almost as soon as it came into office. These so-called proximity talks, where through other mediaries, including the European Union, the United States, the Biden administration has tried to rejoin the nuclear deal with Iran, and that's failed. Iran has not accepted the terms to re-enter that agreement, and Rossi here he's doing his job, calling attention to the risks, the fact that Iran has been pushing and exceeding the limits of the terms of the agreement. And again, the IAEA is the one that's supposed to be monitoring that has the inspection rights in Iran under that 2018 nuclear deal that you mentioned. And so the 2015 nuclear deal. So that's what is at stake here. And what the United States has been trying to do, these are through informal talks arranged by Oman, has been tried to gain some form of cooperation with Iran, some reduction of tensions on the two sides, including on the nuclear terms, without a formal agreement, because this seems to be simply too great of an obstacle. Iran, the terms that Iran wants, the United States simply cannot accept. And so we've been trying to work around an actual formal agreement in these talks hosted by Oman. And for his part, the IAEA head is saying he's not convinced that it's going to work. Please.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that analysis. We'll be watching very closely. Edward P. Joseph from Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us.